those of you that may be joining us via YouTube, we apologize for the technical difficulties. We're just waiting for Councillor Gardner to join us. We've had to relocate from council chambers and do this meeting via Zoom, so please bear with us. See you, Wendy. Wendy, you're on mute.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Clerk. The time is 7:20. We'll report out a closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Council reporting of closed session.
We have quorum.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First item, council reporting of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Gillian, Councillor Gardner. Vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for the first item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Gallo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim is absent for the meeting. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Weiss?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus is absent for reporting out. The motion carries.
Second motion.
Second item of council reporting out of closed session is just to receive the report.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gardner. Recorded vote. Mr. Clerk.
Recorded vote has been requested for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Weiss?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Kim is absent for the meeting. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus is absent for reporting out, and Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Just confirming bylaw first, please.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for the reminder. Confirming bylaw. Mover and seconder. Councillor Gillian, Councillor Weiss. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can adjourn the closed session component. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gillian, all in favor? Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Okay. On to committee of the whole. Mr. Clerk, the time is 7:22 on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. We'll start off with the land acknowledgement. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands. And as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. A shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, may I please get a motion to approve the revised agenda? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, any comments or questions with regards to the agenda itself? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any pecuniary declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none. In our agenda, we did have one presentation this evening, but that has now been deferred to the council meeting on May 27th. And so we will move on to delegations. Mr. Clerk, do we have either it was Shawn, Deane, or Blair and Paige Boston online?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we weren't able to get a hold of Mr. Deane directly. We left messages and emails. Hopefully we can have him delegate at the council meeting at the end of the month. We do have Blair and Paige Boston on, and I'll invite them in now.
Okay, well, I'm sure that we'll send out our apologies to Mr. Deane due to the technical issues we've had tonight. I'll turn it over to Blair and Paige Boston. Please state your name and be reminded that you have 5 minutes for your delegation. You'll hear a signal when there's 1 minute remaining on your time. Please go ahead.
Do you want to go on microphone on?
We're on now.
Okay, great.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all having a good evening. My name is Paige, and here with me is my dad, Blair. I'm 25 years old, and I recently got engaged, actually, and my fiance, Nick, and I are now some proud homeowners here in Aurora. But I've actually grown up in Aurora. I went to Lester B. Pearson Public School when I was in elementary school, and I went to Aurora High for high school. And when we were house hunting, we really just fell in love with the Heritage District and Spruce Street in particular. I just think it's like the perfect place to put down roots and raise a family, and it's an absolute dream come true to be able to live there. So we're very excited. And yeah, I just think we're really excited to build a heritage home that kind of aligns with the charm of the area. And we're very excited and dedicated to get started with that process.
Great. And as Paige mentioned, I'm Blair Boston. Again, I don't want to date myself, but I've been an area resident for over 50 years, probably 51 years in the Aurora area, Newmarket area. Again, went to high school in the region. So very familiar with the town and really excited for Paige and Nick to get their life started, and really excited that they chose the town of Aurora to get going. So it's close to home, and selfishly as parents, we're pretty excited about that. So we're excited to get going with the process. Quickly speaking, again, the purpose of our application, as I'm sure you know, is to seek council's approval to demolish an existing duplex, build a new heritage-inspired building on the property. It's a corner property located at Spruce and Center Street. The current duplex, to be quite honest, is in quite a dilapidated state, very close to probably being condemned for a number of probably structural and other safety concerns. So that's kind of the backstory on the actual property itself. Really happy to say it's been a very collaborative process. We've had a great experience working with Adam and the town staff as we've walked through this process. That was really important for me to stress to the council and to everyone at the committee of the whole here that it's been a collaborative process. We've retained, with Adam's advice, we had a list of heritage consultants. We chose ERA Heritage Architectural Consultants. So what they've done is they've performed a heritage impact assessment for us. They've done a conformity analysis to see how the new property would fit in, the new proposed dwelling would fit in. So really the purpose of that heritage impact assessment is to evaluate the significance of the existing structure and to assess the impact of the proposed new structure. So with that in mind, we met with Heritage, proposed our plans, and have had a report prepared by Heritage that Adam has obviously sent through to the committee as well. The property itself, it's zoned R7. So the existing duplex that's on the property, that the zoning on the property does not require any relief from the existing zoning bylaw with respect to things like lot coverage, height of the building, required setbacks. We're not seeking any variances or any zoning relief. We're fully compliant from sort of a planning and a policy perspective. If I could, I'll share again some of the timeline. It's been sort of a lot of multiple touch points on this as we've walked through this with Adam and with the town staff. We initially contacted Adam back in November. We shared our initial plans with Adam prior to hiring a historical consultant. So that was back in November. By mid-December, we were ready to go and we had a heritage consultant in place. We shared the plans for the property with them. They applied that to their filter of this heritage impact assessment from a construction point of view and a looks and a feel. And they came back to us with a number of suggestions on how this was going to have to be redesigned from an elevation and perspective just to make it fit in with the heritage fabric. So we had the plans revised. We shared those with Adam. Adam gave us some more feedback on that. That was probably in early March. By mid-March, we had submitted those back to our heritage consultant, and they were ready to go to produce their final report and their final impact assessment, which was handed over to Adam in mid-March for submission to the town. Back in April 14th, we attended the Heritage Advisory Committee and presented our application to the Heritage Committee. Great group. We had a great experience. They're very, what you'd expect, passionate and excited to maintain the beautiful fabric of the district, which again, as Paige says, that's the goal. We want to build a heritage home in there for Paige. She's excited to live in that charmed neighborhood. That's what she's looking to do. So we're all on the same page. That's the good news. After the meeting with the Heritage Committee, they did come back with some suggestions and some concerns that are included, as Adam had mentioned, in the planning report that you've all received. I think there was about 5 or 6 items on the list. We've gone through them and made virtually all of the changes that we were in agreement with. I could list them for you, or we could discuss it offline. There's about 5 or 6 items that we went through. They confirmed their concerns on, was it a viable building to demolish? That again was discussed in the heritage impact assessment that was met with. The elevation, we made a couple changes to the elevation, adding some shakes, softening some of the details, again, with the architectural controls in place. The attached garage, that was a concern for them. We went back to our architect. Again, it's a small corner lot, so there's a number of restraints, including the topography of the lot. It sort of falls from front to back. It just is not, you can't work with detached garages on that property. It would just be nothing but left with concrete and pavement, and wouldn't leave, you know, Paige and her husband with a property that would be appropriate. It just doesn't fit. We softened the color of the brick. The color of the brick was something that came up. We had a red brick. In our defense, it wasn't a great rendering that we had at the time. We've gone back and produced a more historical color red brick that we actually selected from an existing property in the district. So we've met with that. We also discussed, from a heritage perspective, there was an existing, there was an old dairy farm on the property years ago. So it came up that maybe we could commemorate the farm with a plaque on the property somewhere. I think Paige, you guys were fine with that, if that was something that we would work with Adam with, just to, you know, keep the spirit of the farm and whatever was there years ago. Technically, it covered probably 100 homes in the area, but if this was one that worked, we would definitely be fine to put a plaque there. So those were some of the items that we dealt with, to let the committee know.
I'll just get you to just wrap up, and then we'll move.
Sure.
Final comments?
Yeah, again, I just wanted to stress we've refined this process many times, and we're happy to continue to work with the committee as we get going. Again, I'll just read from the impact study just to wrap up in conclusion and say the heritage impact assessment of the proposed development, the overall character of the district have been appropriately mitigated. The proposed new construction conserves the cultural heritage value of the heritage controlled district while introducing a new heritage inspired residential building. In our opinion, the proposed development complies with all relevant municipal and provincial heritage policy and meets the professional standards and practices in the field of heritage conservation. So we're real excited to get going on the project. Again, we're happy to work with Adam and the committee, as we've all along. It's been a transparent process. So we're excited to get going and move on to the next steps.
Thank you both. Council, may I have a motion to receive and refer the comments of the delegation? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Weiss. First up, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair to Blair and Paige. I had a couple questions. One, I think you already answered. I was going to ask you about the heritage plaque. It was something to the effect that it would be a plaque with the little short heritage with a description about that at your expense. And so that was something that you were open to, correct?
We are, yes. We discussed the process with Adam, and he says as we get closer to that, you know, we'd pick a location, and he's going to help us with the wording and the appropriate requirement for that. But yeah, I think that's.
I think it's quite cute and charming, so I'm good with it.
Perfect. I mean, I respect that you guys have done your homework and you had hired the right agencies. You've obviously reached out to surrounding neighbors. We've received quite a few letters of support within our email boxes. So, I mean, that is good. I did read in the report something to the effect, some feedback about having some lighter brick, but your rendition's rather dark. And I didn't know if that was something that you were considering within your design, considering the house was very, I guess you could say white or cream, coming from a dairy farmer. Just there's some connection, but yet this is a very dark brick. So I didn't know if I got the impression from the report that was something you were considering, but it didn't appear that way in the rendition that we received.
Yeah, if you don't mind repeating that, I think you mentioned that earlier with regards to the renderings in the brick. Yes,
yeah, we have lightened up the color of the brick, Rachel, and it is a lighter shade of red, only because that's one of the predominant brick colors in the district. As I mentioned with Adam, we're quite happy to fine tune the minutia of the colors and all those details as we move forward with it. We're not stuck on that color. It's kind of a high level rendering. You know, these things change based on availability and pricing and all that stuff. So Adam explained to me that process as we move through the permitting process would be, you know, another stage to dial in that exact color with his approval. And we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Councillor Gillen?
That's all. Nope. Thanks.
Councillor Weiss?
Yes, thank you. And thanks for the delegation, you two. I've got a couple of questions too. One of it, you mentioned before about the demolition And when you're demolishing a century or a heritage home, it's an important factor. Have you done anything around the safety and the integrity of the existing building and receive that information from your consultant?
The consultant did do a couple site visits to look for any things that would be mitigated or saved that would be evident of, with respect to the age of the dwelling. They didn't find anything in there that was worth recouping or incorporating into design. Structurally speaking, there's a lot of safety concerns as far as, for example, wiring. The roof has some challenges. There's a lot of structural challenges in some of the perimeter walls, and the foundation's in pretty rough shape in the basement. It's been cobbled together, and there's some band-aids applied over the years. So structurally speaking, it's not in great shape.
The other question, maybe you can answer this too, is typically when we're doing something in those heritage areas that you've had a discussion or a survey of, even if it's an informal one, with your neighbors, because you're moving into a neighborhood, and it's important to know how the neighbors feel about the movement, because all of the people in there are very interested in maintaining the heritage character of the area. So have you had a chance to talk to neighbors about this?
Definitely,
Paige or Mr. Boston?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We definitely spoke to some. We have some friends in the area, and through them informally, they've reached out to some of their other neighbors and other residents. And I think the consensus we got, Ron, was that the building was tired, certainly not enhancing anything in the district, not adding anything or flavor to the historical and feel of the area. And most of them are really excited to see something fresh and new go up. And importantly, selfishly, this is a great young girl here, and they're excited to have a new
friends in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they're excited to have the neighborhood grow with a young family that's going to bring some life and breathe even more into the neighborhood. So it was positive on all fronts. There were some questions that got discussed and answers that we had for everybody, and everybody we talked to was really content with it. So we're happy about that.
Okay, thanks. And Councillor Gilliland did mention that we've been receiving emails of support, but we've also received a few emails in opposition, and basically it's about those folks who are very passionate about keeping the heritage character of the community. So I just wanted to bring that up, and that's all I have right now. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call a vote. All those in favor of receiving and referring? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your delegation. We'll be dealing with the item later this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll now move on to advisory committee meeting minutes. We have 4 of them. May I have a motion to receive the advisory committee meeting minutes, items 7.1 to 7.4 inclusively, unless somebody has one in particular they want to call it. Moved by Councillor Gilliland, second by Councillor Weiss. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Before we move to the consent agenda, I had a request from the clerk that we move up the report from the Integrity Commissioner, because they are standing by to, I guess, speak to it a little bit. So if council doesn't object, we will move item 10.1 forward. So, good evening, Mrs. Atwood. Before we get started, I will just get, can I get a, oh, actually, we'll turn it over to you. If we can get you to give us some brief introductory comments before we speak to the report itself.
Thank you very much. Thank you for moving me up this evening as well. I really appreciate that. This is our annual report. Actually, it's a periodic report. We aim for annual, and we don't always hit the nail on the head. So this really covers a period of about 2 years for Aurora. So what we've done is put together the statistics for you in this report to outline what we've been doing on your behalf behind the scenes over the past couple of years. And just to give you sort of a snapshot, we talk about we break down the categories of work that we do for you, and really it's policy development and education. And in that regard, we've been working behind the scenes with some of your staff on a social media policy that will be coming forward shortly. We provide confidential advice to individual members of council and local boards when they request it. And that advice is, as I say, it's confidential. It's usually very fact specific, and it protects members. If they obtain our advice and follow it, it protects them from allegations of transgressions under the code or the conflict of interest. So in this regard, we have responded to 7 requests from members of council and provided advice on those. And then the other area that we serve in, and that is complaint investigation, we have had quite a bit of activity over the past couple of years, and we have responded to 17 separate complaints, some naming multiple members of council. And the majority of these have been concluded without a public report. There are still 3 matters that are in the works. And I just want to explain, when we look at a complaint that comes in, we review it to determine whether, if the facts as alleged, if proven true, would in fact not breach the code, then we typically do not proceed with a public report, but rather we conclude with a disposition letter back to the complainant to explain why we will not be proceeding. And we provide a copy of that or a summary of that, including the explanation and the reasons to the respondent member, so that they understand as well that there has been a complaint and here's the nature of it, and these are the reasons why we are not proceeding on this matter. And we provide that to each of the parties. We don't treat it as a public report, but it's, on the other hand, we don't treat it as confidential. It's simply from us to the individual complainant, the individual respondent. So when I say all of the matters, with the exception of 3, have been concluded with the disposition letter, that is how they've been concluded. Now, we don't typically bring those as public reports, but I can summarize for you some of the areas that we have looked at under those complaints, and this is in the report for you this evening. So some of the concerns that have arisen and been brought to our attention come out of the use of social media. And that is certainly one of the reasons we are working behind the scenes with your staff to bring forward a social media policy. So members who are active on social media should be cautious and not, for example, arbitrarily block or mute others without notice or justification. And to some extent, things that wouldn't be said publicly in a meeting about another member, et cetera, should never be said on social media. So one should be equally respectful on social media as they would be in person in a public forum. Other matters that we have looked at have involved lack of diligent attendance at boards to which the members have been appointed by council. Alleged conflicts of interest where we found none, which arose as a result of membership in certain bodies, and alleged procedural missteps at council in the application of its procedural bylaw. We also have seen concerns arise out of the exercise of strong mayor power. So as I say, these matters that we have looked at, where we have disposed of them, both the complainant and the respondent are aware of our position on the matters and why we determined that a public report was not warranted. And as I say, there are still 3 matters outstanding. We try very hard to resist becoming weaponized. And so it requires us to exercise judicious use of our authority in looking at complaints as they come in. So there are certainly integrity commissioners around the province who report on every complaint that comes in, whether it's substantiated or not. That is not the practice of principals integrity. We certainly don't treat these as litigation. Every complaint is not an action in court that must be publicly reported on. And so that is how we deal with these matters. So one of the things we think that's as valuable, if not more valuable, to members of council in terms of looking at matters that we have reviewed is to consider the lessons learned from around the province. So we include that in our periodic report. The things that we've seen elsewhere that have given rise to issues, and some of them may resonate with you and some may not. Certainly one area of concern that comes up quite regularly is the breach of confidential information, where a member of council is disclosing, for example, information learned and closed, or other confidential information that ought not to be made public. That's an area of concern, and we certainly caution that it's important to respect the confidentiality of council, and only council can waive its own privilege. We talk about in our report about non-disparagement, about treating each other and staff and members of public with respect. I think that certainly is an issue that we see come up around the province frequently, not necessarily in Aurora at all, but certainly we see that around the province where there is disrespect in the interactions and the treatment of each other that can really rise beyond sort of microaggressions and get into areas of bullying and harassment. So we caution about that. Recognizing and avoiding conflicts of interest. I think everybody's familiar with those concepts. And we always remind members of council to stay in your lane. By that, we mean there are the role of council is certainly to hear from their constituents, but not to take matters into hand to resolve the issues. That is the role of staff. So there is really a handoff between the elected official and staff, and that always needs to be respected. Finally, there's a couple of areas that have sort of, I guess, presented themselves by way of new legislation, and we reflect on that in this summary at the end of our report. Strong mayor powers, which have now been extended to a vast number of municipalities across Ontario. And they're still relatively new in terms of their exercise. And so in terms of our advice on strong mayor powers, and there's a great deal that remains to be, I think, adjudicated or determined in terms of the exercise of strong mayor powers. But certainly we would say a couple of things. One is that mayors perhaps ought to have regard for previous decisions or positions of council when exercising their strong mayor powers. There's nothing in writing on this, but we think it's probably good policy at some point, and might make its way into, for example, the language of a code of conduct or procedural bylaw or something of that effect. Just really urging mayors to at least have regard to work that's been deliberated by council in exercising their strong mayor power. Of course, as I say, there's nothing in the legislation on this at this point. And then the other thing is that, of course, the exercise of a mayoral directive must be in writing. So, and I think that that's pretty well recognized as well. There is also now another iteration of the legislation that will provide some power to remove members of council. This is the bill in relation to, it's now Bill 9, which is in relation to strengthening Integrity Commissioner powers. I don't know whether it's so much as strengthens, but it certainly provides an avenue for members of council to, at the conclusion of an Integrity Commissioner report, if unanimous, seek to remove a member of council. I'm not sure that that legislation is going to work its way through. It just got reintroduced recently, and it may take many months, if not a year, to work its way through committee. There's certainly a lot of suggestions as to what ought to be changed about it, so I won't really go into a lot of detail on that. I think it was initially introduced in 2024 as Bill 241, and so I speak about that in this report to you. And that's sort of the conclusion of my remarks. We think that this is generally a reflection in terms of the work that we're doing for you. This is a reflection of the way it generally is expected to work, this framework. That is, we are available to provide confidential written advice, and that's what we encourage members to seek when they need that. And otherwise, we're available to address complaints as they arise, and where they can't be disposed of or resolved, then we will bring a public report. So those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Council, may I have a motion to receive the periodic report from the Integrity Commissioner for information? Moved by Councillor Weiss, seconded by Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions to staff or to Mrs. Atwood if she's still available? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know if Ms. Atwood is still there. I have a question about the contract. I mean, the contracting of your services, is that done through the town or is it done through the province? I mean, who is your employer in this consultative role?
Mrs. Atwood?
Yes, I am still here. Thank you. Our services are procured through your own staff, and we typically are bidding on a procurement situation, and in fact we report to council, so our relationship is with council. Okay,
thank you very much for that and for your presentation tonight. I was just interested in when you were giving out the numbers and the rest of it, and you said there was a lot of activity. Is the work that you've done with our council somewhat typical of other councils? Is it in the mid-range, higher, lower? I'm just interested in and I realize that might be a difficult question from a confidentiality standpoint. I'm just interested in personally.
That would.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I'm smiling not because it's not that it's difficult from a confidentiality perspective. It's that it's all over the map. This has been a very active term of council in many municipalities. I wouldn't say every municipality. Some municipalities have very little activity that we need to address. So we're not actively involved in every one of our clients' goings on, but some municipalities do. We get a lot of activity in certain municipalities, and it's really, there's no sort of rhyme or reason to it. I couldn't say that, oh, it's the large municipalities, or it's the urban municipalities, or it's the rural municipalities, or the little towns. It's really all over the place. We have over 60 municipal clients, and we see sort of all sorts of levels of activity. Some are extremely, or from our perspective, cause us to be extremely active, and others we hardly have the opportunity to interact at all with, except for bringing an annual report. So it's really difficult to say. I would say you're in that upper tier of busyness from our perspective, but not, you're not the highest in terms of level of activity. I think it comes from having an active citizenry who is very engaged. And I do think there's also a very high level of activity with social media. And that sometimes can drive activity that we end up seeing something, a concern raised. So some municipalities, councillors have very little social media activity, and others, it's very active. So I think Aurora falls into that other category. It's very active.
Thanks for the candor. That's all I have.
Councillor Gillian?
Thank you. I was going to ask something similar. I think you did answer some of that, the question. It would have been nice to see like a chart or some key drivers of how you feel more of the complaint-driven data looks like, whether it's through social media. Obviously, strong mayor powers is a whole other element. If there's other areas to look at, so at least we can kind of identify trends within the municipalities. Through Mr. Chair to Delegate, do you feel that social media and strong mayor powers has really elevated the temperament of whether it's the community or within its council and staff in the last 2 years?
So thank you for the question. I don't know that I would say that strong mayor powers has driven our activity. It's a factor in some of our activity. Social media certainly is a factor. I don't know that it's any greater in the past 2 years than it was in the previous, let's say, term. One of the things I think that has driven our activity, and this is just really anecdotal, it's not data necessarily statistically, I haven't analyzed the statistics, but certainly from my sort of vantage point, I would say what we see is a bit of, how can I say, contagion. When people see certain activities elsewhere, they want to get on board. And some of that drives a lot of activity that comes to our doorstep.
Interesting. No, I appreciate that perspective. And I think that just with a lot of the recent stuff going on in the world as well, and just a lot of people's stress, it does come out within municipal politics and provincial and federal as well. And you could see the emotions sometimes run through. And, that's why at least I'm grateful that we have an extra arm such as yourself to assist in these situations. I did put a motion in a while ago about the social media policy and coming back to council with staff. And I'm just curious as to somewhat of an ETA on that, because I believe this policy motion I had written was, I think, well over a year ago now. So do you have like an ETA of what to expect, or are you still working on it because now we have strong mayor powers as well, and you may have changed some of the landscape of some of the stuff that you might want to include?
I think the answer to that is yes, both. Yes, some of the new powers have caused some adjustment, but I think the ETA, and that's a very fair question, I think I would say is before the end of this spring. So, before the end of June. Perfect. I think that's our ETA at this point. And I would say, if I could just piggyback on your comments, Councillor Gilliland, often when I think citizenry are agitated about things, the only contact they may have is at the local level. They don't always have the ability to reach higher, even though their concerns may be caused by higher events. So I think sometimes you folks are on the front line.
I would have to agree with you on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for being here tonight and for providing the report. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Ms. Howard.
Good evening.
Council will move back to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Unless somebody wants to pull one individually, can I get a motion to approve items 8.1 and 8.2 inclusive?
Mr. Chair?
Yep. Councillor Gallo?
I'd like to pull 8.1.
Okay. Did you want to speak to it or just for a separate vote?
I'd like to speak to it.
Okay, that's fine. So perhaps if there's no objections, then we'll just get a motion for 8.2, mover and a seconder. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor of 8.2, receive.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, I couldn't get my. I was muted. I would like to pull 8.2 as well.
Okay, so then
Thank you.
we'll start over. We'll start with 8.1. Can I get a motion to receive the report CS 25010 for information? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, comments or questions? Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Sorry, this is 8.1.
Yes, 8.1.
Okay. Actually, before I do start, I have a question of staff. As we can see in the report, there are two attachments that were not included, and I'd like to ask staff. I've been speaking to them, and I'd like to ask staff whether or not there's been any advancements on either of those attachments.
The specific staff person you'd like me to direct your question to?
Mr. Serio or
Mr. Serio?
Wainwright and Kessel?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. No, I can answer that question. There hasn't been any developments. We haven't received any responses yet.
So,
Oh.
I would ask that because there's no urgency on this report, but I believe it's in the public interest to have full disclosure, and there are two attachments that are currently missing and that are being worked on with the potential of them being public. I would ask that we defer this to the next cycle of council.
As opposed to just seeing if those reports come in prior to council and dealing with council, you'd like to move it to the next cycle, Councillor Gallo?
I would just like to have the opportunity to speak if they do come out more than just on council. There's no urgency, so it can go to
So a motion to refer this to the next committee of the whole meeting. Moved by Councillor Gallo, seconded by Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. 8.2. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one. Are you okay with moving the recommendation?
Yes, thank you.
A motion then to receive more information. Councillor Gilliland. Seconded by Councillor Weiss. Councillor Gardner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The Lake Simcoe report, Lake Simcoe board report, is speaking about salt and winter road maintenance that municipalities can adopt. So, as you know, this is very important with respect to freshwater ecosystems and just drinking water. And I'd like to know, perhaps from staff, what it means to ask the province to develop limited liability legislation, or Councillor Thompson, perhaps you can answer that.
I think it's probably best to start with staff, perhaps Mrs. T.
Good evening. Due to the development of a limited liability legislation, I'm not aware of exactly what the context of that is. I'd be happy to get back to you unless Ms. DeSerio has comment on it. I will say that we have a salt management plan coming to council next month, an update on it, so that might provide you some more context around that.
Great. Ms. DeSerio, do you have any comments?
Sorry, Mr. Sarah just had to step out for a second.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, I'll also follow up with Lake Simcoe as well to see if there's any additional information they can provide Mrs. Teenkamp for the upcoming report as well.
Thank you. And I have a follow-up for Ms. Teenkamp through you,
Certainly.
Mr. Chair. Lake Simcoe has been issuing policy about salt and salt management for a long time. And my understanding is that we do follow their suggestions, particularly with respect to parking lots and maybe other public spaces. Is that something that you can answer?
Ms. Teacup?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly we do follow LSRCA's recommendations with regard to salt. It's all our ownership for a clean watershed, and it's not just parking lots, it's the salt that goes down on the roads and sidewalks, things like that. And some of that information, as I said, will be coming to you in our updated salt management plan. It's an overview of what has been going on over the last few years and some new recommendations that are within that plan.
Thank you very much. I will wait for that.
Any further questions with regards to the Lake Simcoe report?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. That deals with the consent agenda. We'll now move on to the Community Services Committee agenda. First item is 9.1. Actually, if memory serves me correct, I think the question is, which items would member of council like pull?
Thank you.
We'll start with Councillor Gillian, who has her hand up. Which items would you like pulled?
9.1, 10.2, 13.1, 14.2, and all the motions.
If it's okay with you, I'll see if Councillor Gallo would like to pull them.
Yep.
All his
I just want to make sure it didn't get missed because sometimes it gets missed.
No problem. Councillor Weiss, did you have anything you'd like to pull?
I'll ask. Was 9.3 pulled?
No.
I'd like that pulled, please.
Anything else?
13.1.
13.1 was pulled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay with me.
14.2 was also pulled.
14.2. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Gallo?
Was 11.1 pulled?
Nope.
Like 11.1, please.
Okay. And I assume that you want to pull your motions?
Yes, please.
You're welcome. Councillor Gardner?
Oh, we've pulled a lot. Was 10.1 pulled?
10.1 was not pulled because we dealt with it already. That's the Integrity Commissioner's report.
Oh, of course. Thank you. I think everything that could you just read a list of the ones that have been pulled, please?
I'll tell you what's not been pulled. Everything's been pulled except 9.2, the Community Partnership Grant has not been pulled. 14.1, the zoning bylaw amendment for Bayview Avenue has not been pulled. And 16.1, the regional park has not been pulled. Those are the only three things that have not been pulled.
I thought 14.1 was pulled by Councillor Gilliland.
I heard 14.2, maybe I misheard.
Well, if not, then 14.1.
Okay, that just leaves 9.2 and 16.1. I don't see anybody rushing to pull those two items, so can I get a motion to approve those remaining two items? Moved by Councillor Gallo, seconded by Councillor Gardner. All those in favor? Opposed? Those two carried. Okay. Back to 9.1. I believe that was pulled by you, Councillor Gardner. Or Councillor Gilliland, sorry, my apologies.
It's okay. Thank you.
Would you like to move the recommendation?
Yes, I just wanted to speak to it. Perfect. Okay.
So can I get moved by Councillor Gilliland? Can I get a seconder? Move the staff recommendation. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think that would have been great if there was a somewhat of a presentation, because I feel like this is a very comprehensive policy that we're creating in strategy plan. I felt it was very, very detailed. I know this is something we've been working on for quite a few years now, so I was quite impressed with it. And I did want to point out, I was really happy to see in section 6.3 of the art selection panelists that there would be a paid fee for the time used for these artists, because I do feel it's rather important that artists are paid for their time. And I was really happy to see that there. I did want to make a comment that I know a lot of these things are suggestions, and it's not something that we're doing. It's just more like an outline of what we may or may not be using as tools. But 6.4 with the advisory committee, I felt that I was not a fan of necessarily that, and the reason for that, I felt that I really preferred leaning on to paying the artists for their opinions that are professional artists. Art is very subjective, and with the committee, it may carry not a very true representation by the way of the art, and rather more of a personal opinion. And I say that because on the other page, there's also, or I think a couple pages later, it does talk about having public engagement in a lot more different fashions, whether it's through a workshop or Engage Aurora or just other surveys and such. So there is a lot of other public outreach that I think is really, really important. But I do like that more dialed in approach with the professional artists themselves. And I also want to give a shout out as well about the thanking at the very end of the report of all the people that were involved. I was actually rather impressed with the professionals that were involved in developing this. I guess through you, Mr. Chair, to, as it Phil is on the line or whatnot, I was wondering if maybe you could maybe offer a little opinion about my comments I just said there based on the advisory and just the paid portion, and you know, how you see that moving through with the public engagement with the way that the policy and the strategy plan is written.
Mr. Rose.
Good evening, everyone. Through Mr. Chair to Councillor Gilliland. Thank you so much for the questions and for the kudos. This has been a long time in the making, so we're happy to bring it before council tonight. As mentioned in the report, there will be a policy that accompanies the plan. So if there is a presentation that is the council would like, I'm happy when the policy comes back to provide more of a presentation. Just to go on the policy a little bit, the policy will more or less be a stripped back version of the plan, but will provide a little bit more sort of detail on the administration of the public art program and how that works. To your comments in particular, I think the nice thing about public art projects is in some ways they're kind of a choose your own adventure, and they give you lots of different options in terms of the different directions you want to go. I would say that public engagement is the cornerstone of the public art public art plan, and we're going to make sure that you know, we consult with the public throughout the entire project pipeline, as we call it, when we develop all public art projects. And as mentioned as well in the plan, we'll be on an annual basis, we'll be coming up with a plan of the public art projects we want to undertake each year, and that will be a plan that will come through to council probably at the end of every year, looking forward into the subsequent year. As far as the advisory committee is concerned, I mentioned in the plan itself that it's really only there as the public art in Aurora, as the portfolio grows and matures. Right now, I don't envision that we'll need an advisory committee of council to steer the public art projects. Many larger municipalities, if you look to, you know, Markham to the south, we relied on their public art plan quite a bit in developing this one. And other larger municipalities will have advisory committees just because, again, it's a larger larger population, again, a larger portfolio, larger budget amounts that are being dedicated to public art. So at this point in time and in the foreseeable future, we don't imagine that an advisory committee of council will be needed for public art. It's mentioned there, again, as a tool that we can rely on, again, as we mature somewhere down the road. I'm not sure, Councillor Gilliland, if there's anything else that I missed, but happy to answer any more questions.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that you covered everything there. I do appreciate the engagement platforms that we have, and I agree that Markham's a much bigger municipality for that type of advisory outreach. I do look forward to some sort of formal presentation on this. I do feel that there's a lot to unpack here, and it would be nice to see this showing some key drivers that are a bit more high level and dialed down. This is really into the nitty gritty. I find that it's very comprehensive. I'm just very impressed with this report, and I just feel that having that presentation would be great for the public, and it'd be a nice document to have that we can share and lean to for the future as we move through the public art strategy plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or question? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair to Mr. Rose, could you explain what living art using integrated technology means?
Mr. Rose.
Oh, it's funny, is it?
No, it's not. Sorry, through Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question. That was actually something that was added by our consultants, Oddside Arts, as an example. So I don't have a tangible example, but I think what it does show is the breadth of public art that is available, anything from digital. So digital art is certainly something that is being explored much more. I imagine even in some ways, artificial intelligence will make its way into the public art process at some point, if it already hasn't, as far as the design process is concerned for some artists. But that one in particular was just cited as an example. I can't give you a precise example of where that's been located. I imagine because of our consultants are located in Toronto, it's probably a project that they are familiar with in the city of Toronto. With that being said, I'm more than happy to do a little bit more research, follow up with the consultants and come up with some examples. One of the things that we are working on, and I should mention this, is the report, or sorry, the plan that you see before you, or the strategy, excuse me, that you see before you. We wanted to get council's feedback before we kind of finalize the graphic design portion of it. So we will be coming back with, we are engaging a local artist who's going to have some illustrations that go through the final sort of, pretty version of this. The other thing that we will be doing with the consultants is providing an appendix that has different case studies and different types of public art that we can learn from. So I will make sure and make a note that that's one of the types of public art that we can provide an example. And as I come back with the policy as mentioned and the presentation that Councillor Gillian has requested, I'll make sure that I touch on a little bit more in terms of the different types of public art, including that one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the answer.
Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I wholeheartedly endorse this. In the report under municipal funding on page 3, it states the town's official plan recognizes the importance of public art to Aurora's built environment and its ability to promote tourism and contribute to the economic vitality of the town. Furthermore, it states that council will promote the creation of public art that reflects the town's cultural diversity and heritage. And it goes on in terms of the multiple funding sources for this. But it doesn't mention the actual official plan in your report, at least. It doesn't mention your official plan of 18.2 DOIX. It says encouraging the inclusion of public benefits, including affordable housing and public art, in a significant private sector development, and requires the dedication of 1% of the capital building, the capital budget to all major town buildings to public benefits. So as we know, we need to contribute 1% of the budget of any large capital projects that we endeavor. And the current balance in the account is 367,000. I guess that's one question through you, Mr. Chair, is the vast majority of that 367,000 from that 1% of a budget of capital projects that we've endeavored to build?
Mr. Rose.
For you, Mr. Chair, I don't know if I fully understood the last part of it, but if Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel wants to jump in specifically on the Public Art Reserve, please do so. I do know that that number was given to me by Finance, by the manager, Jason, and so that 367,000 is comprised of 1% that's been taken off some of the last capital projects that the town has undertaken, including Town Square, I believe the Armoury, and Fire Station 4-5. So I think that money or in that reserve has accumulated. out of that $367,000 that's currently there, some is earmarked for a project, I believe, in 2026 to potentially do some sports banners, if I got that correct, at the SARC on the new exterior facade that's facing the west towards Wellington. So the 367 is currently what's in there, and as you mentioned, Councillor Gallo, any future large capital projects the town as well as the region undertakes in Aurora will have 1% of the construction budget dedicated and put aside into the public art reserve. That doesn't necessarily mean that 1% will go to a project within the vicinity of that capital project. It's there for the town to use. And again, the way that we envision spending it is that we'll come forward with a report to council, an annual report to council, proposing public art projects each year. And it will be up for council to decide if that's the right approach or not. For 2026, I would say that we are looking to spend $100,000 for the first official public art project. There's lots of public art throughout Aurora currently, but the first one that would be our official public art project under the plan or under the strategy, we're proposing to develop in 2026, and with a budget of $100,000 that will be coming through the budget consultation process shortcoming in the short term.
Mrs. Wainwright Van Kessel, do you have anything further to add with regards to the source of funds?
Through Mr. Chair, no, I don't. Phil answered that really well.
Perfect. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, and I appreciate the answer. My real point was that in the report, it doesn't mention the 1%, and in fact, it is the if not all, the vast majority of the funding that we've received is as a result of that 1%. It would have been nice in that section to have mentioned it. Notwithstanding that, in the actual strategy under municipal funding 5.1, the last point 5 does say requiring that 1% of the budget for all major regional and local municipal buildings be dedicated to public art. I'm not exactly sure what regional is. I don't know how we can take 1% of any major regional build, and take 1% of that budget into our public art strategy, the reserve fund.
Rose, do you want to comment on that?
Through Mr. Chair, thank you to Councillor Gallo. I don't actually, so the process of developing the municipal funding portion that mentions OP, I do want to say thanks to Adam Robb in planning to help for his help putting that together and reviewing that portion of in particular. As far as the process of getting the region to contribute 1% of a capital project, I'm not sure if that is negotiated through the planning process itself. So Councillor Gallo, I can certainly dig a little bit deeper, and when we get into the policy, that's probably something that we'll address in a bit more detail. I don't know exactly how that works. I just know that the official plan does speak to it, specifically that municipal as well as regional capital projects would dedicate 1%. So I'll do a little bit more digging and certainly come back to the next session of council or add it to the presentation with the policy, if that works for you, Councillor Gallo.
Gallo?
Yes, perfect. And I was on council in 2010. I was part of the official plan review, and I was one of the proponents for this 1%. So I'm happy to see we're doing it. I'm happy to see the fund is getting bigger, and I'm looking forward to seeing us spend that money on public art, enhancing our community. Thank you.
Councillor Weiss.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Rose, for the work you've done on this. Just following up on Councillor Gallo's question, is it in the policy section that's coming sometime soon on how this money is going to be spent? Will it be coming to council? Will it be delegated authority through you? How do you anticipate that, or what other policies have you seen work elsewhere?
Mr. Rose.
Through you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Weiss. In terms of the budget for any public art project will go through the budget consultation process. it'll be considered a capital project, and that's the way all municipalities do it. So again, we will probably through the budget consultation process bring forward a public art plan that will recommend the amount of money that we would like to spend on public art and the types of projects we'd like to work on. In some ways, it will well until we do public engagement. Some of the exact details won't be known in advance. So, but that's typically how it's done is through the budget consultation process. It's asking council to dip into a reserve to dedicate to public art. So that's how we envision it would happen. And again, that's consistent with all municipalities.
Thanks.
Mr. Weiss?
That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Rose. Now we'll move on to 9.3. I believe you pulled that, Councillor Weiss.
Yes, indeed.
You okay moving the staff recommendation?
Yes, I'd like to.
First, we'll get it. If you're going to move it, I just need a seconder.
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland, floor is yours, Councillor Weiss.
Yes, thank you. The last time we had an update on this, I was concerned with a number of issues, some of it having to do with the demographics and some of the information that I felt should be in this plan. But after thinking for a little while and seeing that the update had the demographics, which means if we're looking at building a sport plan towards a plan that will include all people, we really should have a better understanding of the demographics of the community and should be reported vis-a-vis the number of newcomers, women and girls, people that have various disabilities, and that wasn't anywhere in the report, but I see that it was included now that we will be doing that. So that made me have a discussion with a number of staff around this. And it seems to me that what we have here is more of a strategy as opposed to a plan, because a strategy is just a direction to go, whereas a plan is going to identify specific KPIs and specific things that need to be done. I think the action plan is a little vague in that regard, but it does have a number of the pieces in it. So I'd like to encourage that we continue on with the sport planning. I'm concerned that there's no budget in here, but again, a strategy doesn't necessarily have to have a budget to it, but certainly a plan should have a budget to it. And I'm assured that we will have a budget. What I don't want to do is to endorse something that doesn't have budget, doesn't have KPIs, doesn't have goals and objectives and timing in it. And I think it would serve our sport community better to know exactly when things are going to be happening and specifically what kinds of things to expect, as well as our residents who are taxpayers. So I'm ready to consider approving this as an endorsement, but I really want to make sure that the information that I've asked for previously does come forward, perhaps at council when we bring this forward in a couple of weeks, because I think our residents and our sport organizations need to have that level of comfort.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Arder.
So I had a similar feeling about this and about accountability assigned to get things done. And so my question is why we did, or Councillor Weiss in particular, did address these things at the previous meeting. So why are they not included in this evening's report? Through you, Mr. Chair, to whoever, perhaps Ms. McDougall would be the person.
Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Lisa's also online as one of the authors to the report. With regards to the questions that were raised at the last meeting, staff did go away and revisit some of the context after having a conversation specifically with Councillor Weiss to try to get a better understanding of what was missing. And we feel that the summary that's before council today has actionable items in it in the action plan with short, medium, and long-term objectives, similar to the Parks Recreation Master Plan, where it is a plan but it has objectives that you're trying to reach. Doesn't mean that if council endorses that master plan that we're going to build everything that's in there. We have to always come back and strategize with council and certainly bring budget implications at a future date. So if the items that are in this cannot be handled within the operating budget, obviously that would be coming back to council for consideration for additional costing. But ultimately, I agree and understand where Councillor Weiss is proposing having measurable and action items that we're striving to reach. We feel that that is outlined in the action plan that's attached to this report, which you didn't have the last round. So there definitely has been some, what we feel is a response and answer to some of those missing pieces from the last round. So if there's something still missing, we maybe need a little bit more detail as to what that is that we're still missing.
Thank you. A follow-up through you. I don't see anything that looks like an environmental scan that really speaks to knowing what's going on. And do you see goals and objectives that can be measured in this information that we've received tonight? I don't see that. Perhaps you can point me to that.
Certainly, actually, I think Lisa would be stronger at this.
Lisa,
as she's more
thank
familiar in and out of this report and what's the staff's plan, which is attached.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. In the work plan, you'll see some comments, some we will statements. So those are certainly statements that will hold us accountable. Additionally, we've got some expected outcomes. So to us, those are a form of KPIs. We do recognize that expected outcomes, strategic initiatives are likely going to be fine-tuned and are fluid. They may change as we really delve into each one of these pillars. And we, like I said, we do expect it to be fluid because this is a community endeavor. So we're going to be working on these things with our LSO partners and a number of other community partners. But we do, the expected outcomes is really what's sort of going to drive us and what can be measurable. And as I said, they do need to be fleshed out a little bit more, but that's our starting point for now.
I
shouldn't like that.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. I would like to have a little information on how they're going to be measured. How do you measure an expectation? And what about the environmental scan part? Because anything that I've looked at with respect to these kinds of plans do have that information in them.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we did do a bit of an environmental scan. It's in the main body of the sport plan. We did have our consultants contact a number of municipalities to learn about best practices. So the summary of that is in the plan. And we will look, we will continue to reference that and look at that. And certainly as we move forward in this work, we'll continue to do our own environmental scans, especially as we develop partnerships with surrounding municipalities and we move this work forward. We're always working with our neighbor municipalities, certainly in York Region and beyond. So that environmental scanning work is really happening on an ongoing basis as we work with colleagues in the greater area to learn about best practices and that sort of thing. But an environmental scan was done as part of the main plan. That was work that the consultants did, and it is summarized in the main plan.
Sorry, the main plan that we have on our agenda tonight?
You have it as an attachment. But
you.
It was also presented when the consultants attended council a couple months ago.
Thank you. And one more question. So we have a lot of sports groups in Aurora. I don't know how many, but a lot. Did they participate in forming this plan in any way?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they did. They were integral in forming this plan. There was numerous consultations, surveys, and again, that is all summarized in the actual update document. It actually lists which organizations participated. So there was a number of sport groups along with community groups. And not only were they consulted, they were actually they were consulted at numerous touch points, which again was outlined in the plan and in the report presented today. They were also consulted for a second step that we called our validation step. So we gathered the initial info through stakeholder meetings, conversations, written surveys, a variety of ways. Then we summarized that information. We went back out to the sport community and our community partners and said, this is what we think we heard. Does this make sense to you? Does it resonate with you? And so we did that second step of validation, and we were assured by the organizations that attended those meetings and provided feedback that they felt that we were on the right track with this plan, and that the themes and the information in the plan reflected what they had told us throughout the process.
Thank you. I'm glad you went back and did the validation. I don't think were all of the sports groups involved in this? Or just, I mean, how was it? Did notification go out to all the sports groups and some of them responded and participated, or did they all participate? Thank you. Through Mr. Chair.
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So they didn't all participate. We did have really good participation. Again, it's listed in the plan who did participate. We invited all of them multiple times. And I have to say our consultants went above and beyond in terms of reaching out and trying to get as many organizations as possible to participate. They were even willing to have one-on-one conversations with certain groups if they couldn't attend a scheduled stakeholder meeting. We had a written survey, so multiple attempts were made to the organizations to get their input. At the end of the day, they did not all provide their feedback. I wish they had, but for various reasons they don't. So we have to go based on what we did receive.
Thank you, and that's very interesting, and I'm very glad to hear that so many approaches were made to all of the groups, and it's unfortunate that they didn't all participate, but I'm sure there are various reasons why they didn't. Thank you very much.
Councillor Weiss for the second time.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, I forgot to ask a question prior to this, and it's probably through you to Ms. McDougall. Is this strategy that's being put forward, is this going to be tagged on? Is it truly an update to the existing sport plan that has not actually been completed as yet in terms of all of the items and objectives and KPIs that were in there? Or is this a standalone? Could you answer that a bit for me, please?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly. It is noted in the plan that we haven't, we're planning not to ignore the original plan. We know that there are objectives in the original plan that have yet to be achieved. However, in one sense, they're integrated in some ways in this updated version in today's norms and societal norms and where sport is going. They've been updated. That being said, the other objectives that are there, if there's some that are not yet addressed, they're not lost. We will continue to include them in our reviews and going forward.
Great, and I'm glad to hear that because they do have the KPIs and the rest of it in there. And I just want to clarify what was meant by an environmental scan. And an environmental scan that goes in many plans is really what is the current situation now. For instance, if we're looking at girls and women, the environmental scan would ask sport organization how many girls and women at what age Are they participating, so that when you implement things, you will be able to see that there's been a change, and you'll be able to evaluate what things are being done properly in order to get that change. When we talk about coaching and women, and I'll just talk about women in particular, how many have become sport leaders through the training plans that are in place? And what's the difference between where we are now and what's happened after the application of the sport planning? The same thing goes for newcomers, and the same thing goes for participants who have special needs. If we don't know how many there are now and how many are participating now, how do we know how effective we have been? So that's a key element in environmental scanning, and I hope it's one of the first things that goes into the next iteration of the sport plan, because we have to be able to take a look at the investment that we're putting in here and be able to say, yes, that was a good return on our investment, and whatever we've done, that what we've done has been valuable and worth the expenditure of money, and is appreciated by the sport organizations who actually deliver sport. So I just wanted to bring that last comment up about environmental scanning. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of receiving the sport plan update and endorsing the recommendations contained within? Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have 10.2, the fence bylaw. I believe Councillor Gillian pulled it up, but I'm not certain. Councillor Gillian, did you want to move the recommendation?
I'll just move to receive for now, because I've got some questions.
Do I have a seconder to receive? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gillian, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I did have some questions for you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Desario, I suppose, or Mr. Ray. I don't know if he's online. Okay, I just wanted to pull up the report, so excuse me. Believe within the report it was talking to if this was permitted, and I just want some clarity. I didn't quite understand. Additionally, the bylaw requires a permit for any changes to an approved swimming pool enclosure which has not been obtained. So I'm just trying to understand if say we allowed this extra lattice on the fence that they're requesting, I don't understand the relationship to the pool enclosure. Like, I don't understand how that connects.
Mr. Ray.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gilliland, because the fence around the property, the perimeter of the property, forms part of the pool enclosure, and the fence would change from what the approved enclosure was when the pool was constructed. The applicant would have to return back to the buildings department and submit an application for a revised pool enclosure with their approval, which would be supported based on the approval of council or however council decides, so that an inspection can be conducted again to ensure that the enclosure is in full compliance with the provisions of the bylaw as well. And so essentially, it's just because there's a potential change being made to an approved enclosure, that change also has to be approved through the buildings department.
Thank you. Okay, so are you suggesting that, because I feel like we're talking about the extra piece of lattice that's already on top of an existing fence. So are you suggesting that the existing fence was never approved to begin with, or is this like two separate things? Because I feel like at some point it would have need to have been approved to have a pool with the fence as is, but I'm just trying to understand the relationship to the lattice.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Gilliland, the pool enclosure was approved to begin with, but that did not include the lattice that is in the report before you today. So the lattice would be a change, and as a result of that change, that's what would trigger the need for the application to the building department. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up. And the purpose of this report, that's an added kind of attribute as to if we decide to permit this. However, if I may, and I know this is a little off topic, but it is included in the report, so I'm going to ask, one of the primary reasons of having a proper enclosure is to make sure that there's a certain and sufficient amount of height so children can't climb over. And so would it be fair to say that this extra piece of lattice would not necessarily go against what it's actually trying to achieve? It just seems kind of counter, like a moot.
Mr. Ray?
For you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gilliland, that's possible. We would want to make sure that the added lattice does not have any climbable elements to it as well. So we would look at grading on both sides of the fence to ensure that it doesn't create any stepping to allow people to climb over, in addition to the requirements you mentioned about minimum height.
Gillian?
Thank you. Okay, so I mean, just for my own visual, I'm certainly not the professional, but just understanding pool enclosures and how wide a chain link has to be, and the fact that the lattice is at the top of the fence. I'm just kind of, in my mind, looking at the report today, I'm going to exclude that part as a part of my decision whether I'm going to permit or not permit this fence. I just kind of wanted to put that out there today. I did want to highlight an email that we did get today from somebody who did want to delegate about this, but did not have time. And this has obviously caused me to ask more questions about this report. And said, as a resident of Aurora, I support this application. The lattice has been installed for privacy use only and is on a limited number of fences where the grading slopes downwards. Further, the adjacent property whom shares the privacy screen has recently listed their property for sale and have been promoting the benefits of the screening. That is, that they have privacy in the yards despite the downward slope and grading. This improves the quality of life for all surrounding it. I mean, within the report didn't really talk about, you know, where did the complaint come from? Were the neighbors upset? How did this come to fruition? I just have some unopened questions about this. And I'm trying to get in the weeds of this because we do have an example in the report of other examples of where we've actually permitted fencing and where we've denied fencing. And I've been all over the map, and other council members too have been all over the map with this. For instance, the St. John Side Road privacy was denied, where I know that I was in favor of that, considering it was on a major corridor. And then the one on Holiday Drive, which is like on an internal subdivision, that was approved, and you know, I had not was not in favor of that. So I do think we need to get in the weeds of this a little bit. And so I was hoping I can get a little bit more clarity, because so far I'm only hearing one side of it, and the fact that that it's a little higher, and then there was a complaint, but I'm just trying to understand the full context. So maybe perhaps Mr. Ray, you could shed some light on that.
Mr. Ray?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gilliland. The complaint, this investigation was as a result of a complaint, just in keeping confidentiality and ensuring that the complainant's information is maintained confidential and private. I can say that there are multiple properties that abut this property in question at 39 Hackwood. It is a reverse pie-shaped lot, so there's approximately 5 to 6 homes that abut the home on the rear side, and 1 home on both the left and the right side. The officer did try to work with the homeowner of 39 Hackwood for voluntary compliance, but they wished to exercise their option to bring this matter before council for a fence exemption. And so that's what's brought us here today. Ultimately, it's just one specific section of the fence, as you mentioned, with the lattice on top. That's more or less a high-level overview.
Dylan?
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to, it would have been nice to kind of maybe have an overview aerial of the area. I know this is something that we've had in the past, especially with that last one that was in a community. Is there a way that we could get an overview of the aerial view of that so I can help me understand where it's abutting? I can't tell from the photographs that were submitted. It just looks like a few little pieces of fences were visual in the report that we have. I can't even tell if this is like on a private property or if it's on a commercial. It's just hard for me to understand.
Mr. Ray, can you provide more in advance of council?
If council requests additional information, it can definitely be brought forward. Just to help answer your question, Councillor Gilliland, it is a residential property. It's located in the middle of a residential subdivision. There are 5 to 6 residential homes abutting the property at the rear, as well as 2 on each side. It's located in the Stone Road and Bayview Avenue area of Aurora. So yeah, if council desires more information, that's something that we could bring back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know where I'm going to decide right now because I feel like they have some missing questions. And then obviously we got this other email. I want to kind of dig around a little bit more about that and then make a decision at council as to what to do. Because I feel that even our previous decisions have been all over the place just based on the graph that you've given us. And I understand that precedence is it's a big thing, and I get that. And I think we have to be careful as well. So I'm just trying to objectively look on all sides. There was one last question I had, and it's kind of gotten away from me now. If somebody wanted to, and I think I've asked this question before, erect their own privacy screen within their property because they felt that they wanted more privacy, could they not install their own decorative privacy screen within the interior of their property?
Mr. Ray?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gilliland, yes, they can, as long as it complies with the provisions of the fence bylaw.
So your own decorative privacy screen still has to be a certain height of the fence. You can't have it something higher?
Right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Gilliland, that is correct. The fence bylaw applies whether it's the fence or the privacy screening is erected on the property line or on the inside of a individual property. There's a schedule in the bylaw that outlines the specific height requirements based on multitudes of scenarios, whether it abuts a public, major public roadway, or whether it's just a standard subdivision, or whether it's a front yard fence. But regardless of the location on a property, the fence requirements do still apply.
Even if, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. So even if it's if you have a fence and then you have something decorative on the inside that has nothing to do with the fence, but it's just a decorative piece that you want to put there, you're suggesting that it's now constituted as a fence height. It can't be, well, this is like my artwork that I have in here and it happens to be something decorative. I'm just trying to understand, because I have seen this in other properties and I'm not understanding the relationship to relate to it as a fence, because it wouldn't be necessarily be a fence. It'd be something decorative in their yard.
Right.
For you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Gilliland. So the bylaw definition of a fence speaks to lattice attachments and so forth. So yes, regardless if it's up against a fence and it's a wooden decorative piece of lattice that suppose a vine is growing on, the requirements of the fence bylaw, if it meets that definition, their size requirements and whatnot would still apply.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that, but I meant not attached to a fence. I meant completely separate on its own, but I will leave it at that. But at this time, there's just a few things I want to kind of dig out until council to make a decision. Thanks.
Councillor Weiss.
Yeah, a couple of my questions have been asked, but the one that I want to ask through you to Mr. Ray is the height of a fence is there particularly for safety and security, is it not? Is that the purpose of a 6-foot height or a 2-meter height?
Mr. Ray.
Mr. Chair, Councillor Weiss, yes, it's safety, security, and to maintain a general standard throughout the community. So in most cases for rear yard, 2 meters, which is 6.56 feet is the standard.
Okay, and in your opinion and the opinion of everybody that does this kind of work, that is sufficient to maintain the safety of a yard, obviously. So it's safe to say that anything beyond that is purely decorative or privacy. Is there not a way, or is there a suggestion that perhaps we can have another bylaw that has something to do with privacy? Because people are always interested in privacy in their backyard, and it's part of a quality of life. So I understand your notion about precedence, because the entire town has 6-foot high fences everywhere. And it would be a real problem for us to suddenly say, oh, now we can go to 8 or 9 feet. Do you see a solution to this continual problem that we seem to have with additional heights in order to get privacy through you, Mr. Chair to Mr. Ray.
Mr. Ray.
Through Mr. Chair to Councillor Weiss. I think when the fence bylaw was updated approximately 2 years ago, we did benchmark and we did look at alternatives and other ways to try and address some of these, I guess you could say, one-offs or nuances that appear. We found that across most municipalities, this is a consistent approach. In a lot of cases, when fences are constructed, especially in new homes, an often, I guess, frequent solution that could be utilized is proper stepping of a fence. And that allows for the height of the fence to be maintained as a grade changes. It's not fully a solution when you have various grade levels on properties and different heights of homes and structures in a neighborhood, but it is the most consistent approach. So I would say, generally speaking, what we have in our bylaw right now is sufficient. A lot of it just comes down to how individual homeowners, businesses, etc., choose to actually construct their fence, various means and considerations of cost, privacy, etc.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to our manager of bylaw. I agree with what you said in the report, and it's very tricky, especially if there are grade differences. But we have bylaws for a reason, and they're to be upheld. And so, without any further questions, I support what's in the report. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? The motion on the floor is just to receive at this time. All those in favor?
Oh.
Councillor Gardner, did you want to chime in?
Well, receiving doesn't do anything, as we know. So receive and approve the motion on the floor.
Is there a seconder for that? I don't see a seconder, so for committee of the whole, the motion will just be to receive.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of receiving? Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to 11.1. It was pulled by Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gallo is not with us at the moment, so we will move to the next one, which is 13.1, Fleury Park redevelopment. Councillor Gilliland, I believe you pulled that one as well. Would you like to move the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Moved by Councillor Gilliland. Is there a seconder? Councillor Weiss. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. Just give me a minute here, because normally in council we have a separate computer to the screen. So just give me a second. I have to get to it. Okay. Yeah, I had a couple questions about this. I understand that there was a bit of a further outreach about this project, understanding that we did approve a budget to redo a park, and we have identified that there's been quite a deficit on this side of town. And this is definitely an area where there's a lot of opportunity to fill those missing gaps. So through you to, I guess, is it Miss McDougall or Miss Teencamp? I'm not sure.
Teencamp.
Teencamp, sorry. Oh, okay. Through the consultation process, was it from this public engagement that has allowed you to come to this conclusion to make a little bit more of an investment, and seeing how we do have some funding from the park's asset management reserves, have you identified that this is a great opportunity to increase some of that servicing?
Ms. Teencamp?
So through you, Mr. Chair, certainly it was Councillor Gilliland. The public engagement meeting was well attended. We had some excellent feedback from the residents that met us in person and through the survey online. They were quite passionate about the neighborhood and that part of town. And this being a community park, it provided us some additional space and opportunity to put in some of the amenities that are lacking on the western portion of town, as illustrated in the Parks and Recreation Plan. So a splash pad is being recommended through the public and through staff, along with an accessible playground. Both of those are strongly recommended in the Parks and Recreation Plan for the western portion of town. And because this is a community park, has all these other servicing amenities within the park of a washroom currently on site, a large capacity parking lot, the community center's there. It's really an ideal location, and there's sports facilities already in the park as well. It's an ideal location to locate these amenities within it.
Gillian?
Thank you. I do like that you had pointed to the newly endorsed Parks and Recreation Master Plan that we endorsed in 2023. So that was great that we could point to that. I do believe that there is a great deficit on that side of town. So I was happy to see that there was a lot of public engagement on that. And we do have the resources in those reserves for that purpose. I did want to make a comment. I know that we had great success with the accessibility, the accessible park at Town Park. I know there was quite a lot of great feedback. Although, if I may, there is one feedback that I felt that I wanted to also include with some of the comments with the park was they felt that in the Town Park area, there was a reduction in swings, and it could have been just due to the space. And with Fleury Park, there is obviously a lot of room there. And if we are looking at making this park a little bit more accessible, which, you know, I support and I think is great, I would like to see an increase of swings, or at least ensure that we're keeping a lot of swings, because it tends to be one of the favorite elements of the park that children like to play at. Some of the comments that I received at Town Park was they often found themselves waiting their turn for a long time to have a turn on the swing. So I just wanted to make sure that as we're transitioning and offering a little bit more accessibility, that we don't forget some of those other components, and especially when we have space on a piece of property like Fleury Park, that doesn't go unnoticed. And lastly, through Mr. Chair and Ms. T. Camp, I am going to bring up the pickleball. I know that I am still getting a lot of emails, comments, and text from the pickleball community that's been waiting with bated breath for extra facilities. And I don't want to see this deferred beyond 2026. What are our projections for this? And I'm sure this is all contingent on moving the current playground to the other side. And I just don't want to see these pickleball reports being pushed and pushed and pushed. I feel like we've been talking about this since 2022, maybe even 2021. If you can kind of give us an idea of that project, that'd be great. And then the follow-up is the current status of the rehabilitation of our current courts.
Ms. Camp?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So certainly the courts are already approved through the budget process for the pickleball at Fleury. So if council approves or does not approve the funding for this evening, those courts will proceed this year for construction, and we're ready to go to tender as soon as council endorses the additional funds or not, with either scenario with the new amenities or without. So we're hopeful we will have the majority of those courts constructed for this year, and they'll be operational for 2026. With the courts that improvements that were to be completed last year, the tender is closed on those, and we're getting ready to start construction on the resurfacing of Edward Coltham and Trent shortly, and those will be converted to 2 courts at each location for pickleball, and basketball will be completely separate. As you know, right now they're contained as a multi-use court, but they will be separate units. So there will be 2 courts dedicated to pickleball at both those locations.
Thank you. And as far as those 2 locations you spoke about, obviously, you know, the outdoor season's just started. And obviously, we certainly don't want to be taking away from a lot of the outdoor season as we're just opening. So do you have an ETA as to when this is going to start? And then also, I've had a lot of questions about Mavronack.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we're cognizant of the court works that we are doing in town. There's tennis courts that currently have pickleball lines on them that we will be resurfacing this year as well. So we've got them all in queue, lined up. So there is available pickleball courts at every time during the year. Just some of them will be closed at certain times while we do the resurfacing. So there will be availability of pickleball courts. These ones specifically at Trent and Edward Coltham, we hope to have them done by sometime in July. The Thomas Coates we have queued up for the fall, so that'll be resurfaced in the fall. So they'll be available in the interim, along with Fleury, till we actually take those courts offline. The tennis courts will continue to have the pickleballs, so they'll be operational even during the construction. So at Fleury, they'll be able to use the pickleball courts that are lined on the tennis courts still, and then once those courts are online at Fleury, then they'll be independent.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I the reason why I'm talking about pickleball, because we have a deficit. This is about the pickleball, and I'm getting a lot of questions. So I'm sorry that this is defecting to other locations, but the pickleball crowd really wants to know. And it's really contingent on when this is going to get started. So then the question is, what about Mavronack?
Perhaps we can cover that under new business. Since we're talking, the motion is really about Fleury Park.
I know.
So I just
so
through you,
we'll
Mr.
hold
Chair.
that for new business because we still have a few items and we're late on our break as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you have anything else, Councillor Gilliland?
No, I just was really just trying to get the skivvy on pickleball because
that's what people want to know. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Weiss?
Yes, thanks, and thanks to Councillor Gilliland for working so hard on the pickleball. I agree with it 100%. It's an under-serviced group. All I wanted to talk about, however, is because people are always concerned about taxes and we're spending money on this, that, and the other thing. It is noted in the report that this is coming out of cash and lieu parkland as well as our capital reserves. So I want to thank you for including that in the report, although it's always done where we're going to get the money for it. But in recommendation number 14 for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, it asks to do this, which we're doing, but it also says work potentially as a joint venture with a third-party club. Has there been any efforts to identify a third-party club? I know we don't have that pickleball group really as organized as many of our local sport organizations are, but has there been any attempt to try to mitigate this through sponsorship and any other tool that we have in the toolbox to reduce the cost and find sponsorships or joint ventures with other people? Through you, Mr. Chair, to whomever.
I'll put it to Ms. Steenkamp first.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, Parks certainly hasn't worked with any third party, but there is opportunity for some sponsorship potentially of those courts, and that's something that would flow through community services, and we'd certainly be open to that if an opportunity arose. Thank you.
And in regard to what Councillor Gilliland said about the swings over at Town Park, I haven't heard I'm there a lot, and I haven't heard very many complaints about it. I want to thank you for extending that whole concept into other parks to get resident feedback, because it's very useful. And if you need any help with that, with the Town Park Ratepayers Association to offer a survey or something about the park, just to get an idea of how satisfactory it is and how much they like it and what are some of the deficiencies, I'd be happy to help you with that.
Thank you. Any questions about Fleury Park, Councillor Weiss?
None more. No more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions, Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm finding you're doing a very good job this evening. So I would like to thank the Accessibility Advisory Committee. They had some excellent suggestions for the accessible playground, and something that I never thought of. We make the playgrounds accessible for the children that need the accommodation, but not for the parents who might have accessibility issues. And the example is, how do you push your child on the swing if you're in a wheelchair? And so I think we also need in the future to be thinking this through, especially with an aging population who will be taking perhaps grandchildren to the parks. We need to try and think it through so that it can be accessible to the people who are accompanying the children to the playground. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions to this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendations to increase the funding as outlined in the 4 motions, perhaps we'll put that up just so everybody's clear. If I can ask the clerk to put the recommendations on the screen. A little bit of a pause there. Perfect. Thank you. Members of council, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Council, we're slated to take our health break now. We still have 6 items left. So I suggest we take our health break 10 minutes or 5 minutes. What would council like? We see one suggestion of 5 minutes. Is 5 minutes enough, council? Okay, 5 minutes. It's now 9:12. We'll reconvene at 9:17. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, we have quorum. Suggest we start back up. And next up is 11.1. That was pulled by Councillor Gallo, I believe. Councillor Gallo, would you like to put the staff recommendation on the floor? Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, technical problems here. My laptop died and I got trying to figure out how to connect. Is this the 2025 investment policy update?
Yes, it is.
So I will, unfortunately, my laptop died and I cannot have access to my notes in terms of my questions. So I'll have to revert to asking them at council. But I'll put the recommendation on the floor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gilliland? And do other members of council, did you want to say anything or do you want to just wait until council?
I'll wait. I mean, I could try, but there's no point. I don't have my notes with me.
Understandable. It's been a night of technical challenges all around. Any other comments or questions to this item? Councillor Weiss? You're on mute, Councillor Weiss. Yeah.
Thank you. Apologies. Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing what Councillor Gallo said because he pulled it. But the only question that I really had that's important is the consideration of what's happening with our investment strategy vis-a-vis tariffs and the up and down market and the effect that will no doubt have on investment. Can you tell me anything that you can and the public that might be able to allay some of their fears, because our investment strategy is very important because of the amount of money that we have in our reserves. So my question is through you, I guess, to Ms. Steenkamp. Or sorry, Mrs. Wainwright Van Kessel. Yeah, thank you.
To you, Mr. Chair. So the investments that we have with the one JIB are our longer term investments. So this is not funds that we would need within the next 2 years. So that should alleviate some of the challenges that we're facing in the market right now. The investments are also professionally managed. These are people that are looking at the market on a daily basis to make sure that they're taking all the information and also looking at investing globally rather than just in a single market. So these benefits overall should help us more over the long term and should alleviate any concerns that we may have in the short term in relation to tariffs and until that is more stabilized, hopefully in the near future.
Sweet. You're on mute again.
Well, I'll sleep better thanks to that. But the other question that has arisen from a few people that have asked, and I believe I know the answer, but can you tell for the public, tell me where the money where the money has come from for the investment into the JIB? Many of them are concerned about whether it's a taxpayer funded or whether it's out of various types of other tools that we have in the chest. So could you tell me and tell the public a little bit about where the funds have come from that are within the investment strategy that you have?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The funds that we have there reflect a lot of our capital reserve funds. So a lot of our saving for future asset management, particularly in water and wastewater, we invest in long term because when we have those future asset management obligations, they tend to be further out into the future. So we have opportunities to save for those before they do happen. And it's also linked to our 10-year reserve plan that we have. So in our capital budget, we do actually post what our future expected balances of our reserves are for capital funds. And that gives you a sense of the mix of where the sources of funds are coming from. So it's a combination of some development charge funds, some other tax source funds, and some user rate funds.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other? Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I just did remember one thing. I did receive a document that outlined the changes and I believe it was part of the FAC committee. It's not on our agenda, but I found it very helpful. I was wondering if we could include that in the next agenda for council, for everyone to see, so that you can track the changes in the document. That was very helpful to me.
Can that be included as an addendum?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, we can include as the addendum. It was the attachment that we had included in FAC.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Being none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And next up is 14.1. That was pulled by Councillor Gardner. That is the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision with respect to Bayview Avenue. Councillor Gardner, did you want to move the staff recommendation?
No.
Okay. Does anybody want to move the staff? Councillor Gilliland and seconded by Councillor Gallo to move the staff recommendation. Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. I would just like to ask staff, I noticed that the land to the north of the proposed subdivision is all EP land. I just would like to have the assurance that this development will not be built on any EP land.
Mr. Romano, is
Through Mr. Chair.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that's the land to the north was the storm pond that was created, that we own, storm pond for that subdivision, the 2B. So yeah, the development, the 15-unit townhouse development is strictly within the development limits that were established as part of the 2B secondary plan. So the EP lands to the north of the secondary, the stormwater pond that was constructed and fenced. So there are no hazard lands here.
Okay.
And us remaining undeveloped 2B secondary.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments or questions with regards to this item? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I guess the only thing I was going to say about this development is like, this was a while ago, is that they actually had a reduction in height from 4 stories to 3 stories. Is that correct? Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Romano?
Mr. Romano?
The chair, so the official plan designation would allow up to 4 stories, but these townhouses are 3 stories. And I believe when the application did come in, it's always been 3 stories, but the official plan, medium and high density designation would allow up to 4-story heights.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that for clarity. I would look at this as actually a prime location to have 4 stories if they did stacked townhomes. For homes on the top and the bottom, it would actually give a lot more opportunity for even more families. And, I'm just glad that this project is going to go forward and the shovel's going to get ready in the ground for this. So it's still a win for me, but I just kind of wanted to point out that, we are moving forward and there's some great opportunities. So I think this project falls in line with our zoning standards, and I'm looking forward to the project to move forward.
Any other comments or questions? Sorry, Councillor Gardner, is your hand up?
It is.
You just didn't see it in front of the camera. Go ahead for the second.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland reminded me of something. When I look at the design, the west elevation, block 1, is it actually 3 stories and a bit of a raised basement, or is that area dug out?
Mr. Romano?
Mr. Chair, so yeah, it's 3 stories, but based on the elevation, you could see a bit of the basement, a couple feet. Again, we're still working on the final details of the site plan. We're just dealing with the zoning bylaw and subdivision, but yes, based on the elevation, you can see some of the basement windows. So there's 3-story townhome units with basements.
Thank you. A follow-up through Mr. Chair. And these windows that we're showing, although it's, this is not the final design, would somebody be able to get out of the basement through these windows?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we haven't seen a final design.
Just
until-
chair is fine.
I'm sorry.
Just
Mr. Chair. So we haven't seen a final design, and based on the building code, if there were going to be, bedrooms in the basement, they would have to be sized properly for egress. But at this point, we haven't seen the building permit, so they may be required to be larger windows to allow for egress. But we'll have to determine that at the building permit submission based on the design of the basement and how they're going to use the basement.
Thank you. Just as a comment, I know from working on this for many years that there are a lot of illegal basement apartments, and which we don't know about. Would like to hope that those, if this is the design, that there is maybe even as they do sometimes, dig out a small portion of the land so that somebody could get out of that basement window if they had to. I'll leave it with you, Mr. Minot. I'm just thinking of safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
Mr.
Gilliland,
Chair.
the second time.
Yeah, I was just making a comment. I also read in the report that just if you want to confirm through Mr. Chair and Mr. Ramuno that I believe it did say that the site plan application has not been fully submitted and that would come back to council.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have a site plan and condominium, but we're not seeking council's approval of the site plan yet because we're still finalizing those. But I believe that will come forward to council because it was submitted prior to the legislation.
Right.
Okay.
All right. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Next up, 14.2, Councillor Gilliland, you pulled that one. Would you like to move the staff recommendation?
I would move part of the staff recommendation and actually defer to the alternate recommendation that includes the heritage plaque.
So you would like the motion to be received and then?
I believe it's on page 447 of the report. Just give me a minute. That the heritage permit application be approved subject to any conditions of the approval being required at the discretion of council, such as the installation of an interpretive plaque, the contribution to the Heritage Reserve Fund. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. If there's any other
Is there a seconder
comments
to that motion first? Councillor Gallo. Okay, floor is yours, Councillor Gilliland.
Perfect. I feel that the applicant has utilized all the tools in order to help us educate ourselves on the site in general with the consultant that they hired in respect to the heritage component, has done a lot of outreach in the community, surrounding community, as well as the Heritage Committee. I am interested in hearing maybe some of the remarks from the Heritage Committee direct from the councillor who sits on that committee, so I'd like to hear those comments. And through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuno, I did have comments about, obviously the brick, it is a little bit dark. I did read in that report that it did conform with some other brick colors that were in that neighborhood. I guess for me, I look at that original house being white, and it does change a little bit of the context of it being stark from dark red from the white. And I'm just hoping that if you can provide me with some insight of what it is that staff might be leaning towards as far as recommendations, as far as colors that kind of go a little bit more in keeping with that area.
Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Chair, I also have Adam Robb, our manager of policy and heritage planning here. He's been working very closely with the applicant, and you heard the applicant and his daughter earlier on. So staff is satisfied with the colors based on the revised renderings. Yes, it is a antique red brick, similar styles of that color within the district. So we are satisfied with the architectural designs and the color of the windows, doors, and the brick. We can also, if council chooses the alternative recommendation, Adam will work with the applicant, and I think the applicant did mention they are willing to install a perimeter plaque on the property. So if that's the direction, we'll certainly work with the applicant on the appropriate wording and location. Staff is supportive of the design and coloring of the brick and windows.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Arnold. Mr. Gallo?
Thank you. Okay, I mean, I do like that. I think it's important to have that little bit of homage to it. I'd like to. It would be really nice if there was a small little photo of whether it looks like a drawing of what the house looked like, and maybe a little bit of history of it, a little bit more than just some words on a plaque that's really small on the house. It is changing the look of what the house is from what, people are not going to know what the house looked like before being torn down and rebuilt into something. So although this new house is a rendition that looks in character and keeping in the community, it has nothing to do with the look of the original house. So I feel like if they are going to do an interpretive plaque or with a description, there should be some sort of drawing to show what the original house looked like. Has a little history with the dairy. It's a white house. I don't know, something about that. I wish they had chosen more in the cream lines or something. Just kind of goes in keeping with that whole history with the house is that color now, and it just kind of goes with that whole, it kind of falls in line with that whole story with the dairy. Anyway, I just would like to be, that would be what my recommendation is as far as the detail of the homage to the description and the plaque. That's what I'd like to see. And I don't know if council is going to have an opportunity to look at the color of the house. I don't know if it's necessary, but these are just some of the concerns or the recommendations I have. And the councillor who's on the Heritage Committee, I'm not certain I know, because I know that just changed. Oh, Councillor Gardner. I would just like to hear Councillor Gardner's comments, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gardner.
Well, perhaps there's other members of council have their hand up, but I'm sure Councillor Gardner can share those comments when we get to it, if that's okay.
Okay, I just don't want to lose, if like I have another time to speak, so just in case I had something to say or a question to ask the Councillor Gardner, I just didn't want to.
That's fine. Councillor Gardner, would you like to share the Heritage comments then?
Thank you. Well, you know, the committee did agree that the existing house was in very poor condition. So the tearing down of the house was agreed upon. There were some comments about perhaps moving the structure a little bit forward to align with the frontages on the street. And I think that there was a comment about the brick, but this color brick is representative of other homes in the area. I'm fine with the brick, but I'll save, and you know, because the other homes have the detached garages in the back of their homes, it's quite a different look. But I'll save my other comments for my turn. Thank you.
Councillor Gilliland, anything else?
No, I think that's good. I just wanted to get the Coles notes on that, and I'm happy to listen to what my other colleagues have to say. But thanks for the opportunity to ask.
For sure. Councillor Weiss, then Councillor Gallo.
Yes, thank you. Of course, we've all received emails on both sides, and so I thank everybody for providing that information. I appreciate those who have been very steadfast in the heritage preservation. They come into that district, they value heritage, they value the look of their whole area, and I appreciate that since it's in my ward, and I know many of them, and some of them have dropped by my house to have a conversation. But I also appreciate what other people who live in that area have said about the state of repair of that particular property, and I'm really interested in making sure that the demolition of that property is warranted. And so my question is really through Mr. Renaud and Mr. Rob about
the demolition of that property, and is it warranted? And is it, in your opinion, could it be saved in any manner without being onerous in terms of the amount of repairs that need to be done? So through you to Mr. Ramuno, if you wouldn't mind.
Mr. Ramuno?
That's thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, based on staff's review and the Heritage Consultants report, the existing structure is in poor condition, and it doesn't meet any of the 9 Ontario regs for designation. And so staff, along with the Heritage Consultant, can support the demolition and the rebuilding based on the site plan and the renderings that are attached to the report. So yeah, the existing building has been altered throughout the decades. There's no architectural significance to the building, and it is in poor condition.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Mr. Rob, who's gotten well out of his way to work with both the applicant and the father. And I think they're going to be an excellent inclusion into the neighborhood. I know they've spoken to other people. Some people cannot change their mind, of course, and there may be some pushback from those people who are more interested in saving old buildings than others. But there are some items that are still outstanding. And so my question is maybe to Mr. Rob, does he feel that the items that are outstanding, that are perhaps design features, we've talked about the brick color, but there are other small things that have come forward. Is there time between now and council to resolve those types of issues so that the new build is actually conforming completely to the standards that we hold for the Heritage District? So through you to Mr. Rob.
Mr. Rob?
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. There will be still time between now and building permit issuance to refine some of those minutiae and some of those color details and finer elements, so that we really can come to the final product that really fits in with the character of the community to a T.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Mr. Gallo?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Rob. First of all, we've seen many of these heritage impact assessments, and I have to say this is probably one of the best that I've seen, and well written and well documented. The house as it stands right now, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Rob, does it look anything like the heritage house that was originally there and that we would try to preserve?
Rob?
For you, Mr. Chair, the report, the consultant's report, you will see, I believe it's page 34 off the top of my head, does actually say that the structure, the existing structure, there's no actual evidence that that is the existing structure. That was the primary function of the dairy company there to begin with. It may have actually been the property to the north. And that being further said, just due to the sheer number of alterations, unsympathetic alterations over the years, it doesn't articulate that heritage value, despite its connection to the past in that manner.
Councillor Gallo?
That's what I took from the report. So I mean, this house here, from a heritage perspective, I don't even know what it is. The white siding is surely not vintage. So I mean, I'm in support of this. It's certainly a betterment than what's there, and if we can accomplish any heritage connection through a plaque, I think that's the best way to do it. But to preserve this, I'm not sure is the right thing to do.
Any other comments or questions with regards to this item? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To me, I have spoken with Mr. Rob about this. I think it's a very large structure, relatively, because of the lack of the ability to do the detached garage. So my suggestion, I'm looking at attachment 3. There's a lot of black on this house. As you may know, I love black, but I'm wondering if, and I have suggested that maybe the 2 black garage doors could be a different color. It seems to me very modern in a way, the use of all of the black. But it's certainly the home that was there was a detriment in a way to the neighborhood. So this is an improvement. I find that it doesn't fit my description of what heritage would be, but so be it. I know that everybody's worked very hard with this. With respect to the plaque, I think we're talking about two different things. Are we talking about a plaque that would be attached to the home, or were we talking about something that would be rather strange, which is a separate plaque that would be on the property, probably near the sidewalk?
Rob?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So this still remains at council's discretion in terms of what they may want to see in that regard. In my opinion, perhaps a plaque closer to the street edge that then speaks to the broader history and the broader story of that concession block or of that area as a whole may be most appropriate, rather than isolating the individual house, because the story is bigger than that, just that individual house. But at the same time, I'm at the hands of council, whatever they may want to see in that regard.
Thank you. And actually, I think you are correct in that. It would be quite an unusual thing to see in the Heritage District, but I think that it's a good idea. So, and it was discussed, although not completely at the Heritage Committee, but I think it would be in keeping with the intent to mark the heritage of perhaps the dairy, or perhaps the property adjoining was the dairy, but just the general feel. So I'll leave my comments about the garages and the window treatment with Mr. Rob. And that's all I have to say about this.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions from members of council? Perhaps I can ask the clerk to put the motion back up on the screen so we can all see it again. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we move to member motions. First up is 15.1. Councillor Gallo, that is your motion. I'm assuming you're going to move it as is.
Yes.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gallo?
I'll just quickly read it. It speaks for itself, but whereas transparency and accountability in financial matters are essential to ensuring public trust and responsible stewardship of town assets, and whereas the Armoury building and its lease to Niagara College represents a significant investment and partnership by the town of Aurora, and whereas it is prudent to undertake a full financial review of the arrangements prior to the conclusion of Niagara College's lease on June 30th, 2025. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that council directs staff to prepare a comprehensive report outlining a full acquisition cost of the Armoury building, the cost of reconstruction and renovations to the Armoury, including a breakdown separating leasehold improvements directly related to the operations of Niagara College, total rental income received from Niagara College, any financial obligations, commitments, or contributions made by the town of Aurora under the lease agreement, any other financial analysis staff deems necessary to provide full transparency related to the project and lease, and that the report be presented to the Committee of the Whole meeting no later than the end of the third quarter of 2025.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Gardner?
I've seconded the motion, so therefore I obviously agree with it. But I thank Councillor Gallo for reading, because the whereases do not appear on the screen. So I think it was helpful for any of the public that's watching the meeting to know the whys to the therefore. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo?
Just a final note that this is somewhat an homage to Councillor Abel, who attempted to do this very thing way back when we first discussed this, and unfortunately was not able to accomplish this, and I hope we can accomplish this now.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments or questions, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Councillor Gallo again, 15.2 amendments to the procedural bylaw. Assume you will move it.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Weiss. Councillor Gallo, would you like to speak to it?
I won't read it all, but I'll just give you a summary of why I put this forward. Two main reasons. One, that while going through the procedural bylaw recently and trying to better understand it and hopefully improve it, this particular item came up, and I wanted to tweak it so that first of all, in the previous version, a majority of council could actually call a meeting within 24 hours. And I didn't feel comfortable with that, although sometimes it's necessary. Perhaps those types of urgent matters could go to the mayor, where he can call it quickly. I'm proposing a longer time frame. And I'm also proposing a change whereby a simple majority can place a motion on a special council meeting. Those were the two main areas that I wanted to address. It also tweaked a little bit, just suggesting that if the mayor is asking or staff is asking for a special council meeting, that everyone is also, and I assume it's already done, but that everyone is consulted prior to make sure everyone can attend. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions with regards to this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 15.3, land data modernization. Councillor Gallo, again, I'll assume that you are moving it.
I will, yes.
Seconded by Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Gallo, would you like to speak to it?
So I won't read this either. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just summarize by saying that while we have a lot of great information, particularly related to planning, I think, and we certainly wouldn't be the first ones to do this, it's a strategy to put it all together in some type of format, perhaps a dashboard, where anything related to a particular site in the entire town can be easily accessed, either zoning or official plan or any OPAs or anything that's happening and it's relevant to a particular piece of property that can be easily accessed and looked at by either us or the public. There are other examples in Mississauga and in Toronto and in Brampton and even internationally in Singapore that do this type of thing for many reasons, for simplicity, for transparency to the public, and for ease of accessing information both for the public and for us. And if it's there's a comment in terms of it's ward related, perhaps there's alerts that come up to us that indicate something is happening on a particular property, and it saves staff time many times, as I'm sure all of you go to the planning department and say, hey, what's going on? And or the public, or if a planning application comes up, how many times have we heard the public say, I wasn't aware, or issues with accessing information, and I'm hoping to resolve that by virtue of this type of endeavor, and it's seeking for a report to come back before the end of Q3 2025, basically in time for any budget deliberations or inclusion of any costs that this may have in the mayor's budget.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I just a quick comment. Thank you, Councillor Gallo, for bringing this forward. I happened to see a demonstration of a very similar program. Perhaps maybe you did as well. I know that you've been working behind the scenes on this. We just happened to, you happened to beat me to the punch. So I really appreciate you bringing this motion forward. I do think that we do need to modernize our data and make it a lot easier for council members to pin down what's going on in their wards in their area and those questions with staff, but just again, just streamlining it, just not for council, but for staff and the public where it's appropriate. And hopefully through this motion, staff will be able to come back and give us some recommendations on how we could move forward and perhaps initiate some sort of pilot with this to help us better understand and streamline our planning process. Again, like we want to get the shovels in the ground faster. We want to be able to translate information quicker and understanding the zonings faster. And if this is going to help us peel the layers of the onion quicker and more efficiently, I think this is a really good motion, and we should all support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes items for discussion. We'll now move on to new business. I'll start with Councillor Gilliland. You're on mute.
Yeah. It just takes me a while to press the button on the iPad. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Teenkamp. Back to my pickleball. I have a lot of members of the community waiting for bated breath now that the nets are open on several courts. And the question remains, what's happening with the courts at Maverick and what's happening with the courts at Thomas Coates and everywhere else? Seeing as we're not getting our new pickleball court this year, it's very imperative that the pickleball community knows what our schedule is like for the existing ones that we have and the rehabilitation. So if you can expand on that a little bit, I think that they would really appreciate a little bit more detail.
Ms. Teenkamp?
So through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, Thomas Coates and Maverick are the same park. So it's located on Maverick. It is called Thomas Coates.
10 o'clock.
It's all right. So those courts are scheduled for the fall for construction. So end of August, September. And so those will be resurfaced and leveled out during those months. The courts at Edward Coltham and Trent, that tender's been awarded. We've met with the contractor and they will be starting work shortly with anticipation of those being completed in around the first week of July or so, give or take some weather. So there will be 4 courts then between those 2 locations dedicated to pickleball. And as I said previously, as you'll remember, they were a combined basketball and pickleball, but they will be separate now. So they will be dedicated to pickleball, 2 courts at each of those locations, and basketball will be separate. And then there's a number of other court works being undertaken as well, resurfacing at David English and Normweller as well this year.
Thank you. And if I may just ask and about the Fleury, and I know I'm kind of circling back, but it is new business and it just kind of made me think, did we put an RFP out for the contractor for tender for the 8 pickleball courts already? I know it's an approved item, but have we already put that out there for tender?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, that has not been tendered currently. We were just waiting for council's decision on these extra amenities. It makes sense for us to put out a full complete tender for all the works to get the best pricing that's available with a single contractor. That being said, the pickleball is a priority, so those will be initiated first, and we've already been dealing with our consultant on that, and that'll be part of our work plan.
Thank you for that. I want to follow up on this. Okay, so you'd said 1 contractor. So I really want to make sure that when we're building a pickleball court, we're also contracting somebody who specializes and understands how to build them properly. I've been to several different pickleball or pickleplexes all over the place. And you start to learn the mistakes that happen, especially with the amount of room that are around the edges of the pickleball courts. Some have short fences in between to help the balls rolling. And I just want to make sure that, you know, when we are going out for tender for someone who's going to be installing these pickleball courts, actually has some experience, because it's not just as simple as slapping down some, you know, a square footage of asphalt or whatnot and throwing up some nets. I think there's a lot more to it than that. And I really would like to hope that we're going to make that part of our tender specialized, who may not specialize in playgrounds. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Teenkamp, is that something that we're going to try to achieve? Because I certainly don't want to put all the eggs in one basket if it's not their specialty.
Ms. Teenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So certainly, when I said one contractor, they would be the GC for the contract. So they will have subs that specialize in those particular amenities that are going in. So yes, we have worked with our landscape firm, is very well versed in tennis courts and any kind of court, pickleball included, have done very comprehensive designs for other municipalities, including new markets. So we are closely following some of those guidelines that they've provided, and then they will be installed by a court contractor.
Thank you. So I'm assuming they're not the same people who built the ones that were rehabilitating, for lack of better term, with the basketball courts or the pickleball courts that have maybe a foot on the edge where you can fall off the edge. I'm assuming that that's not the same level of contacts. This has changed and modernized since. I just don't want to see any of that happen again.
Ms. Teenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Chair, correct. These are fully functional pickleball courts for competitive play.
That's what I want to hear. Music to my ears. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner, new business?
Well, there are going to be a lot of happy people to hear this news. Thank you, Councillor Gilland and Ms. Teenkamp. My question is so completely different. People have put goldfish into the farm pond at the Arboretum, and it sounds innocent enough, but that pond is a very busy breeding pond for toads, and of course they produce tadpoles, and the goldfish, from what I understand, can multiply pretty quickly, and the tadpoles would then be at risk. So do we have a plan for trying to clear out the goldfish in the pond?
Ms. Teenkamp?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we've been in some discussion with some regulatory bodies regarding it. There are some mitigation measures that we're going to attempt to start. From what we can see, the population isn't significant at this time. It hasn't exploded. So we are going to be doing some trapping of those fish over the summer months. We have a student that we've retained through the Arboretum, and she is going to be helping us with that exercise and putting up some additional educational information for members of the public regarding that. So that'll be our first attempt at it, and we'll monitor it for the next year or so. If we find that we don't have control over the population and it starts to explode, and we're finding it in other adjacent stormwater ponds and things in the area, then we'll look at some other measures. There are some chemical means that are approved through the province, but we have to go through some regulation and regulatory sign off to use those, but they're very effective, and they're not they do have an impact on some fish species, but they wouldn't have an impact on amphibians and aquatics. So, but they are regulated by the province, and they are a recommended way to control invasives when we can't, when they get to a population that we can't deal with some of these other mitigation measures.
Thank you. And I do believe that there aren't that many goldfish right now, and hopefully we've caught it early enough. And if you ever told me I'd be kind of sitting at the council table talking about goldfish, I wouldn't have believed you. But it's one of those problems that could become serious. So thank you for your thought and attention to this, Ms. Steenkamp.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, new business?
Yes, now that we still have Ms. Steenkamp, just want to know if there's any upgrade or update on the infamous Queen's Diamond Jubilee water feature.
Ms. Steenkamp.
So, through you, Mr. Chair. So last fall we did some in-ground works, did some pump replacement and some of the infrastructure. The contractor that we retained to do an overhaul on it and have it fully functional is coming in the next few weeks to actually put the main fountain structure in. The one that was originally designed for there was not the specifications around it were not adequate. Basically, it was drawing too much water, and the bowl was not sufficient, and the structure was not safe. So we have found a different structure. It's a little more artistic. It's a metal structure, and I think it, in tying in with Art in the Park or the public art strategy. It's a little ahead of the strategy, but I think it'll be a nice addition and something that the public will appreciate, and it should be fully functional shortly.
Good to hear. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
New business?
Sorry, did you ask for me?
I did. So I just want to know if you had any new business.
Sorry, I didn't. Yes, I do. And again, to Mrs. Steenkamp.
It's popular this evening.
Yeah, I'm glad she didn't leave early. The tree planting was noticed along Wellington, and she and I had a bit of a conversation about it. But the prevention of this kind of problem and what the issue is that the trees were being planted by the region, and I don't know if we knew about the tree planting. This was on the south side of Wellington, just east of Industrial Parkway. And I was aware that Active Transportation had a multi-use path planned for that area to link up the trails. And I'm wondering how that gets resolved so that the left hand and the right hand can speak to each other, so we don't interrupt our plans, but we also don't we allow this the tree planting to be done. So through you to Ms. Steenkamp to give me an idea of how we can fix that and prevent it in the future.
Ms. Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we did have a conversation about this, and since then I've reached out to the region, just asking us if they can include us in all planting initiatives that they are having in town. Sometimes we're aware of certain things that are going on, but this particular area hadn't been flagged by us or to us for planting. But further to having a look at the site and having some conversation with the staff that are involved with the Active Transportation Group, that particular strip where those trees are planted, the grades there are not necessarily conducive for a path. A path could go in there, but it would require a significant amount of retaining wall and cost. So the Active Transportation recommendation would actually, after a site visit, they've concurred that they want to have a continuous path there, but the best location for it would be on the south side versus on the north side versus the south side of Wellington. So that path currently as it exists already skips back and forth from north to south just because of some factors along Wellington. So for it to go in the future on the north side would be the more financially responsible location for it, and there's a lot more frontage there for us to deal with. I've also operations does not sit on the active transportation committee, so I've just asked if maybe we can have a seat at the table if there's some things that we can add from a planning point of view, because we're out on site and we know what the terrain is, and we can add some comment before we get too far down the road and decisions are made, and you know, it's hard to turn back when we get to a certain point. So we've asked if we could have a seat at the table, and you'll probably see a familiar face there from operations in the future.
Great. That sounds like a good solution. Appreciate it. The other one I have is, and I also mentioned it to you, but I don't know where we are with it and how fast it'll be, but at Town Square, we have somewhat of a heat sink in there because of the warm weather coming up. And are there plans, and when do you think those plans will be implemented in order to try to provide some shade or some heat mitigation plans for Town Square? For you?
Yes, this is actually Ms. McDougall, so I'll pass it over to her.
Sorry. Over to Ms. McDougall.
Thank you. Yes, we do recognize it can be a bit of a hot spot out there. We have added for this coming summer umbrellas for the cafe, at least in that area where you're sitting having your drinks. And we are also considering a shade structure to be added for consideration during budget. It would definitely be an opportunity for the public to use day to day. And as well, we're looking at having it as a structure that would also cover potentially a performance area. So when there's performers in and having to dance on those hot black boxes, we could try to shade it for them. So that is coming forward for budget, that shade structure. So it would be something that we would be having for 26. But the umbrellas are in place now at the cafe.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Councillor Gardner, I think, brought up the notion of a gathering space and benches and things at parks, and I've heard from our residents at the Newtown Park that it's so popular, but we have grandparents and parents and others that want to gather there, and I'm wondering if that something can be done about that, and perhaps it sounds like it's a good budget item for 2026. Would you like me to submit that for a 2026? Through you, Chair, to
Well, I'm not sure if
think
Mr. Deane came for Mr.
Deane
Deane
can.
because we're talking about parks.
That's what I wasn't sure if you were talking about the Town Square or the
No, Town Park. Town
Okay,
Park.
I'm off.
Thank you.
Over to Mr. Deane.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify what the request is or what the interest is?
Well, there's a lot of more kids coming to Town Park and to participate in the playground, and in particular around days where we'll have music in the park, dance in the park, and farmers market every Saturday. And the residents are saying we don't have any place to sit down and chat and talk while our kids are out there playing. Yeah. So I think there's a need for additional benches. And in fact, I think there's probably a need for more of them throughout Town Park area for residents who come to various events and simply want to gather. One of the things we have about a quality community is connection and gathering spaces. So I guess you would like this to be included as a budget item for 2026?
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Certainly we can have a look at placing permanent benches within the park. These would be year-round, cemented into the ground. There are quite a few benches I know in the park already that are permanent, but maybe as this is seasonal, maybe we can look at installing or placing some additional picnic tables and seating areas within the park during those high capacity months. That's something we wouldn't have to go through a capital budget request for because we have quite a number of them. So let me investigate with staff. And if there's something I need you to do, then I will request it of you.
Thank you. Happy for that. And the last item you and I have already talked about, but I wanted in public record. The splash pad was supposed to be put in with the town park, the new upgrade to the town to the splash pad, but it didn't get done prior to the summer. and people are wondering if it's going to be put in and when it's going to be put in, if it's going to be put in. So if you could just give me that. I already announced this at the Town Park Community Association last night. So I'm just verifying it here tonight, if you don't mind.
So through you, Mr. Chair, certainly there were just a few challenges with the contractor and the supply of the new splash pad amenities. So we are want to keep the splash pad open for the summer and not do any work. So we've just deferred that to close the splash pad right after Labor Day. So September 2nd, it will be closed officially at Town Park, and then we'll get in there and do the retrofit, and we'll be ready to go for 2026 with the brand new splash pad.
Great, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Move on to public service announcements. Back to Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner. No? Councillor Gallo? Councillor Weiss?
Thank you. Just want to make an announcement for our first sport tourism event that's going to be happening at the SARC. The Ontario Martial Arts and the Games Committee is coming there on May 29th. Opening ceremonies are at 9 o'clock, and they're going to be in there for 2 days doing a provincial championship. So I want to thank the Wushu people, one of the Sport Aurora members, for bringing that to our attention. There's a new plan for entrepreneurs at the library called Startup Help. So people can go to startuphelp.ca if they're considering starting a new business and being an entrepreneur. And you can contact them for more information because classes are being formed right now. The Metrolinx Construction Liaison Committee is finally coming back on May the 29th. The committee is, Metrolinx has been off for about 6 months since the election started because they couldn't do anything forward facing, but now we're back on that. So any residents who have interest on the construction liaison with respect to the train trestle at the south, the double track construction or the platform, can get in touch with their representative on that committee and make sure they get their interest in by May 29th. And just a reminder that the farmers market is on now every Saturday, beginning at 8 o'clock and going to 1 p.m. at Town Park, and everybody is welcome.
Thank you. I have a few to read off. The Aurora's Youth Innovation Fair will take place tomorrow, Wednesday, May 14th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Aurora Town Hall. We encourage you to stop by to see students in grades 4 to 12 showcasing their brilliant ideas and innovations to tackle real-world issues. For more information, visit aurora.ca/youth innovation. And calling all children and youth performers, it's your time to shine. Enter by May 19th to compete in Aurora's Performing Arts Festival, presented by Marquee in partnership with the town. To find out more about this, go to aurora.ca/arts festival. This weekend, if you're looking to safely dispose of old or unwanted electronics, join us for our upcoming e-waste event on Saturday, May 24th. Sorry, not this weekend, but the following one, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Joint Operations Center. For more details, visit aurora.ca/waste and recycling. And then pool season is just around the corner. As you open your pool, remember that pool water is harmful to aquatic life. Help us keep our streams, creeks, and Lake Simcoe healthy and full of life by following the proper pool and spa discharge steps. For more information, visit aurora.ca/pools. And finally, the Aurora Economic Development Team has recently launched a new podcast. Ever wonder what goes on behind the scenes of thriving businesses in our town or how they got their start? Off the Cuff brings you unfiltered conversations with business leaders who share their journeys, challenges, and successes. You can stream or download the first 4 episodes now at aurora.ca/off the cuff. And back to you, Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. Sorry, you just tweaked my interest when you talked about the youth innovation, because I can't go to that because there's a contact thing called a contact photographic event that starts at 6 o'clock at the Aurora Town Square. So people are interested in photography are welcome to go there and see that display.
Great. Councillor.
We didn't have a meeting on May 5th or around that time. It was National Day of Awareness for honoring the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Very important, in my opinion, National Day. And also, May is Sexual Violence Prevention Month. And this is a message we got from Yellow Brick House. And a particularly vulnerable group is the youth 15 to 24 with respect to sexual violence. So just something to be aware of. Thank you.
That concludes public service announcements. We have no closed session this evening. And so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.